When you receive your paycheck at the end of every month, how do you decide between how much to save and how much to spend? Once you set aside money for essentials like food and rent, how do you decide between how much to skimp or how much to spend on fun stuff like taking a vacation or maybe buying that one pair of boots you've had your eyes on for a while now? One factor that might influence your decision is the current economic climate. In today's world of high inflation, data shows that people are very cautious with what they choose to spend their money on. Another factor that might influence your decision is your perception of future economic conditions. If you think prices are going to rise even more, then it makes sense to spend now. But if you think prices are going to fall, then you might want to wait a little bit more before buying those boots, else those boots might end up walking all over you. This belief about how people think the economy will perform in the future is what economists term expectations. I have just given you some examples of why expectations matter to one person. Why do they matter for the economy? It is because people's perceptions have real-world effects. If confidence in the economy is low, people cut back on spending. This reduces the demand for goods and services and can lower economic growth. Businesses factor these decisions in as well. If confidence is low, then they cut back on production and investment. Banks also look at these numbers and they prepare for a reduction in lending. All of these are enough to cause an actual recession. In other words, if you think that there could be a recession, there might actually be one. Many of you might have heard about the Silicon Valley Bank over the past month. One of the largest banks in the United States collapsed completely within just 3 days because people lost faith in it. The last time this happened was 2008, when Lehman Brothers shocked the world by filing for bankruptcy, triggering one of the worst recessions of the century. So people's confidence in the economy really, really matters. In my research, I use data at the household level in the United States to study these expectations and understand their properties. I find that a person's expectations about the economy depend both on their own personal circumstances as well as on national events. For example, younger people tend to be more optimistic about the future than older people. Similarly, those who are unemployed tend to be more pessimistic than those who have a job. A great example of national events affecting economic expectations are elections. Data shows that before 2008, white people tended to be more optimistic about the future of the economy than Black people. This changed in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected the first Black president of the United States. After this, Black people's optimism soared and even surpassed that of white people. This trend reversed in 2016 when Donald Trump came to power. Expectations of Black people fell, while white people on average became more optimistic about the future. In an effort to aid policymaking, I also study which government announcements affect people's expectations. Every month, the government releases several economic indicators, such as inflation, GDP, unemployment, etc. I try to study which of these households value the most when they make their spending decisions. I find that the one that has the largest effect on household expectations is the jobs report that contains data on wages, unemployment, hours worked, etc. So whether you'll get those boots or not depends on next month's unemployment rate, probably because it can indicate how likely you are to keep your job. This is important because central banks tend to focus more on expectations of inflation. However, my research shows that for households, the labor market is an equally important factor and should be considered when making decisions. Another interesting feature I find is that the effect on expectations is asymmetric. If unemployment increases from the previous month, then I find people becoming pessimistic very quickly. But if unemployment decreases from the previous month, then there is no increase in optimism. What this means is that it is really easy to induce a panic, but extremely hard to build faith and confidence in the economy. Thank you.